Hi there. It's Reiki Rita Roberts here this Wednesday evening. Um, Welcome for tuning in. This is our second part of a three-part series of coping with the Christmas crazies during the Christmas holidays. Now, particularly focusing on the family. So yes, thank you for tuning in. This is going to be live and interactive. So feel free to drop in your questions and I'd be happy to answer whatever I can with the time that we have allotted. So, welcome. Today's topic is basically if you're dealing with any sort of favoritism, stress around siblings. Let me get rid of that. Let me close that. Oops. Oops. Hang in there. Right. Okay. Yeah. So dealing with favoritism, especially around Christmas time. So a lot of times it evokes anger, stress, and we really don't know how to deal with it. I know that when I was going through it, I had a really hard time coping with it and adjusting with it. Let me just see whoever's on, say hello. Let me know you're there and that this is actually working. All right. So in the meantime, I'm going to carry on. So we're going to touch on some stuff like words you've heard like favoritism, which evokes the golden child syndrome, which evokes the black sheep syndrome, which evokes competition, anger, power struggles, and eventually resentment to start happening in family relationships. All right. So we're going to talk about that. So why does it happen? Well, what happens is when parents start to play favorites, they start to create a negative cycle that starts to happen within the family relationships, whereby the golden child is born. And this golden child seems to be the favored child because, and that favored child tends to take on a more ego or selfish persona, which becomes very arrogant, thinking and believing that they are this special child and that mom and dad love them more. And you can just imagine by that tone how it starts to create a whirlwind of all kinds of power struggles, anger, resentment within the family. Not only as small children, this anger and resentment could carry on right through to adulthood, sometimes even after the parents have passed as well. Just doesn't go away. So, for those of you that don't know me, um, my name is Rita Roberts. I'm known also as Reiki Rita. My expertise for over 15 years is working with energy. All right, so I'm an energy healer. So I know how energy works and affects our reality, i.e., the family, relationships, so forth, so on, and the struggle that we all have for energy and why. Let me move this thing off my face. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm also the author of Parents with Price Tags. It was a healing journey for myself on how to deal with my own dysfunctional family. So it has some of my memoirs, my own personal struggles, and also some tools and tips on how to do healthy parenting. So that's sort of who I am. I'm becoming a certified holistic family wellness coach. So I like to target parents in particular because I'm on a mission to stop family dysfunction. You know, in my 15 years as a healer, I've seen a lot of people come in and transition from physical issues to mental and emotional issues. And that's sort of what sparked me to start this journey about what I found is so many people don't know what unconditional love is. All right. And they also don't know how to love their children unconditionally because they don't love themselves unconditionally, right? And a lot of this love and behavior they've learned from their families. That's where the root is. So this is why I tend to tackle families. We have to start talking about it to bring awareness, to bring healing. That's the only way to go through it. You have to go through the pain. Just like childbirth, you can't sort of skip over the pain part and get the prize, which is a baby in the end. You have to physically go through that painful journey and get the prize, and healing is the same thing. Unfortunately, we have to go through it. You can't skip over it, skip under it, and avoid it and hope to be happy. It doesn't work that way. All right. So going back and getting a little off topic, but basically let's talk about why favoritism happens. All right. Now I'm going to talk to you from a very different perspective. I'm going to talk to you about energy and why these negative emotions happen and how they compare to your energy. Okay. Because, well, before we get started, think about it. When you're not happy, you're unmotivated, you're tired, you're exhausted, you're not sleeping well. All right. And when you don't feel loved, we're all in search for love. That's why. So it does affect your energy. All right. And all this dysfunction and all these family challenges do affect your energy and affect the type of day you're going to have, the type of life you're going to have, the type of parent you're going to be, the type of partner you're going to be. All right. So that's what I'm going to speak to you about so you can understand it. And the other reason I like to focus in on energy is because it's realistic and it's something that you could actually be in control of. All right. Rather than dealing with, outside substances or things that are, this is something you could be in control of to help your healing process. All right, so that's why I want to teach you this and how it works. So I want to read something from my book actually that sort of stands out today about our topic of favoritism. Whether moms, and now this, let me tell you where I got it. It's from Carl A. Pilliner. He's an American professor of human development. He says, whether mom's golden child or her black sheep, siblings who sense that their mother consistently favors or rejects one child over others are more likely to show depressive symptoms as middle-aged adults. It's quite interesting, right? And this is my quote from Reiki Read It. When children are encouraged to grow into their authentic self, competition will no longer exist, and this world will actually be peaceful. Okay? And I'll tell you how that works. So let's talk about favoritism, why it happens. Because we were all in search of energy, all right, parents are no different. We all need it. The reason we want energy is because it makes us feel better, keeps us healthy, keeps us alive and motivated, all right? And the higher the energy is, the more frequency of love we feel. The lower our energy is, the more fear we feel in our life and the more negative emotions. Okay, so what happens with favoritism? Parents don't intentionally start playing favorites. In fact, some of them don't even know they're doing it. They believe that they're treating all their children fair. Okay, but what they're doing, there's a difference between being fair and treating them the same. When you treat all the children the same, it still really doesn't always work for each child because each child is unique. And that's sort of an old school sort of methodology for parenting. I feed you, give you all the same food. I dress you all, and put a roof over your head. I'm treating you all the same. So a lot of parents are very confused when their adult children challenge them with favoritism because in their mind, they don't understand where that's coming from because they think, well, you got to play the food, you got to play the food. But what the child is trying to say is that I feel like you don't love me as much as Bob or Sue or my siblings. That's what they're trying to communicate. Okay. But what happens is with parents and why it happens, and it's happened with my own, like in my own experience, that when I brought this sort of issue to my own parents about my, oldest sister being the golden child and and I'm being the black sheep. I don't like that term because it has a lot of, it insinuates a lot of different things. But the black sheep meaning the one who stands out, the one who's rebellious, the one who doesn't seem to fit in to the family. And they get labeled the black sheep. So I was a black sheep in my family. Now, the reason that being is I was a black sheep because I challenged my family, because I brought different perspectives that they were used to or not used to into the family, and they didn't get where I was coming from. So, it was challenging for them. And my parents would lose a lot of energy to try to understand me. Again, like I said in my first video, part one, obligation. The reason that there was a challenge is because we're the ones changing, not them. So when you're a black sheep, you tend to bring different perspectives or viewpoints to the family, and they don't know where you're coming from. So in their mind, you start to become the difficult one. You're the difficult one. You're the challenging one. And I hear it all the time from people as well. This one is going to give me trouble. This one over here. Why can't you be more like your sister or your brother? Youch. All right. You're starting the cycle of dysfunction and you're starting the cycle of competition. So, what the parents are really saying is their favorite child is the one that's easiest for them. Okay. And what I mean by easiest is the one that resembles them the most, the one that's closest to their own behavior and beliefs. So, for instance, if the parent is a, sports jock and they have a son who loves sports and the same thing they do, that child becomes the easy child. Or if they have another son who wants to be an artist or a musician or a painter or something the jock parent doesn't understand, they start to shelf that child or position that child as being the black sheep or the different one. Okay? Now, what happens with the power struggles is when the child, I wanted to say something. Okay, so there are two ways that then the black sheep copes with the position that they're in and the lack of love that they feel and the favoritism that they feel is being appointed to another sibling. They tend to do one of two things as adults, using the fight or flight. And we've all heard that in psychological terms. Okay. So if the adult tends to be more aggressive in nature, they're going to argue their point till they're blue in the fucking face. Okay. They're going to argue, challenge, get angry, stomp their feet, slam doors. So they're basically acting like adult children and they're rebellious. Just like a child would have a temper tantrum, this adult child is lashing out the same reason, feeling neglected, feeling like, that they're not being favored. So let me just check this here and make sure that I'm where I'm supposed to be. Okay. So that's one way of coping, or potentially negatively coping with the fact that you feel unfavored by your parents. The other way, and common way, is sort of the flight mechanism coping system. Flight meaning sticking their head in the sand or not confrontational. So what that person will do is they don't want to confront their parents in fear that they might look childish or deemed petty because they're feeling like they're not being favored. They're afraid their parents might say, stop acting childish. So they've got nowhere to release their anger. So what they tend to do is they will backtalk. They'll talk behind the parents' back. They'll find anybody who will listen. They'll use sarcasm, sarcastic remarks, and that sort of thing to deal with it. I, unfortunately, I'm embarrassed to say, tend to use that strategy when I was in the midst of my own family dysfunction. Now, rightly so, at Christmas time, a lot of these emotions come out, and it does create an emotional warfare between the siblings because it's so obvious at Christmas time. And parents, again, either intentionally or unintentionally realize they're doing it. In my particular case, my parents said they were unaware that they were doing it, and it was so obvious, but it wasn't obvious to them. And I think the biggest challenge is they don't know how to fix it. And then what happens is, to add insult to injury, the parent, after feeling, challenged by the neglected other child, will go talk to their golden child or their favorite child and tell them how that child feels. So now they create competition between these children, right? And it becomes a huge clusterfuck of emotions, negativity, anger, and unhealthy competition amongst the kids. Okay. Now, the best way as a parent to see if you're potentially following the same route is to sit down and ask your children. I mean, be bold. You got to straight up ask them, do you feel that I'm favoring one child over the other, your sister or your brother over you? And you have to be ready to get that answer. That's the only way to fix it, is you got to get to the truth. And hopefully they're going to say no and honestly mean it. All right. But pay attention to their body language because it's in their tone, it's in the way they say it. If they feel loved, then there is no sibling rivalry. It's a parent's job to find the uniqueness and the authenticity of each of their children so that they can rejoice and express that and, celebrate the differences in each of your children rather than trying to make them all the same. Stop doing that. When you try to make them all the same, it's not a healthy best parenting practice. It's actually a recipe for disaster where you're going to invite favoritism to exist. And those power struggles will become real. And anger will live in your family. And anger leads to dysfunctional and fear-based emotions. So that's how it all starts. You have to, parents, please look at your children as the individual that they are. Try to find something unique and special in each one and celebrate that equally. Celebrate it equally. Don't just find the one that's easiest for you and doesn't rob you of your energy. Okay? And for God's sake, watch your words. Watch what you say to your children because they're listening. Your children are sponges. They're taking in everything you say, every look, every feel, every emotion, everything, especially when they feel neglected. When we feel emotionally neglected, all right, due to favoritism or not feeling loved or accepted for who we are, we start to look for everything the parent does just to solidify the feeling. Okay. So, for instance, I remember where there could be two of us, me and my other sister would be sitting at Christmas dinner. And if my mother moved a certain way or looked at something or commented about something, I was ready to pounce on her because I was reactive. I was wounded, hurting, felt neglected by her, felt unloved, felt not like I didn't belong. Okay. So I'm ready to attack. All right. Whereas my sister, who didn't have that same feelings, first of all, never understood where I was coming from. Right. And your other siblings, you might realize, don't have that problem. You only have that problem because you're changing. You're becoming aware that you don't feel the or getting the positive feedback and emotion that you want. So you want so badly to get it from your parents, you know, so rightly so. So going back to my sister, when I would share that with her and say, "Did you see that? Did you hear what she said?" She'd be like, "No, Rita, I don't see what you saw." You know, and then you start to question your own emotions, your own feelings. It's just because you're so reactive, because you're wounded, you're hurt, because you don't feel loved by the people we are told, especially at Christmas, are supposed to love us the most. So it really screws with our head about why do I feel this way. So you become reactive and you watch everything that these people are doing. The gifts they got are the gifts nicer than the gifts I got, you know, um, just everything. You know, it's been so long now and I'm trying to reflect back. But I do remember approaching my parents with this and they didn't know where I was coming from, honestly. But the cycle of favoritism, golden child, unfortunately, my family carried on to the next generation as well. If the cycle isn't healed or brought to awareness and dealt with, it will carry on from generation to generation. Then I started to see my parents favor the certain grandchildren. So there were golden grandchildren as well. And there were black sheep grandchildren as well. So see how sick and twisted it gets. So we need to stop the cycle. And again, the only way to stop the cycle of anything is bringing it into the light of awareness. Bring it in, telling the truth with your emotions, speaking from your heart, telling your parents or your siblings how you feel. Now, they may not change, okay? They may not change. Chances are they probably won't change. Some might, and that would be great, but some may not. Some will never understand where you're coming from. So the onus always falls on you, okay? You have to make the change within yourself. You have to find that love and that peace and that I'm good enough, I'm authentic enough, I'm worthy enough of love within yourself. All right, self healing. That's the only way to find contentment because, again, this family that you're with, these people you're around, they're unconscious and they have no clue of the pain that you're going through, the emotional pain and the neglect and the abandonment issues that you're experiencing, which you are manifesting as sadness, depression, or anger and resentment. Okay? So a lot of that has to start with you. So if there's no questions, which I don't see that there is, anyways, you can always view into this video later. I understand this is a sensitive subject. So if you're happy to see the video after the fact, have any questions for me after the fact, please reach out. Also, I invite you to go to thefunctionalfamily.ca or join my Dysfunctional Family Parent Emotional Support Group online. There we'll talk about issues on a regular basis. You could post questions or approach me with certain issues that you're having and how to deal with them. Okay? I've been there, I've done that. I wrote that book for me, and now I want to share it with you. Okay? So this concludes today's topic about favoritism and why it happens. Okay? And again, it happens because those children are easier for your parents in their eyes. Okay? And that's really their loss, because if they took the time and the energy to get to know each and every one of their children authentically, okay? Now, parent, they'd be surprised at the beautiful gifts that God has bestowed upon them with those children, with you, okay? And if you're a parent, please remember this for your own children. Remember the pain that you felt when your parents you didn't feel loved by them. So again, it's not parents' faults. In the end of the day, they're unconscious. They don't know why that this is even happening. They're tired. They're exhausted. All right. So it's your job to bring it to their awareness and tell them what your emotional needs are. And if they can't help you or they refuse to change in that way to meet your emotional needs, then you need to distance yourself and start the journey to self-healing, to give yourself that love and that acceptance, all right, within yourself. And once you find it within yourself, you know what? There's no drug like that, like I said. There's peace of mind, there's joy, there's genuine happiness when you get there. So that sort of brings me to the last of our 3 topics next week. Next week will be part 3, coping with the Christmas crazies, but it'll be about empowerment, how to get emotionally empowered to separate yourself from the noise, from the drama, and be happy within yourself. Okay? So tune into that. That'll be next Wednesday, December 19th at 7 o'clock live. If you know somebody who would see value in these videos, please share it, pass it on, spread the word. Okay? Because in 2019, we're going to go full throttle and working with emotional involvement and emotional intelligence and family healing. So this is only the beginning. So hang on to your hats, people. So again, thank you for tuning in. Have a blessed evening. I hope you found this video helpful. Please like it, share it, reach out to me. Go on to thefunctionalfamily.ca, join the Facebook group, and we'll see you there. Till then, stay in the light of happiness from my heart to yours. We'll see you next week. Be well.